Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Game Best Mornings with me, Jeff Grubb, your host from giantbomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking more about getting more of The Witcher 3 in 2026. And no, that's not a typo. I didn't mean Witcher 4. It's going
The
to be a
news
good
is
one.
graphics cards are at the perfect place to be playing The Witcher 3.
You want to go back? Let's just keep going backwards. Everything's going that way. We have Lex Luddy on the show. That's how you know it's going to be a good one. Lexi, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm very tired. Turns out,
Me too.
Turns out when you fuckers take the website independent, a lot of people want to contribute to your guest game of the year lists.
More so than other years. Yeah. I even forgot to ask like 10 people and that we meant to ask. And it's like, even then, it would have been, oh boy, that would have been quite a few more.
And so me and Marino edited a lot of stuff. And little behind the scenes look at things. The image library hasn't come over from the old website. So when we were CMSing all that, we had to find new images. And that was
a good thing overall that image library didn't come over. There was a lot of fun stuff in there that did not necessarily serve Giant Bomb in any way. Yeah.
Yes, I was also thinking about that was probably a shed pool.
Yep.
And so, yeah, me and Marino also spent a lot of time building up the backbone of an image library with images for pretty much like every game that came out in 2026 or 2025. Because honestly, I'm like, those are wild spread of games, and we wound up, it felt like almost every game that came out this year got a mention in one of the lists. If you haven't read the lists, go read the lists. I mentioned Drive Club in mine because I'm sick.
No, Drive Club is it having a moment? It feels like I keep hearing about Drive Club.
Drive Club was taken offline and is like in a semi-functional state. It's the PS4 one.
Right. I think what happened is people like have been getting it running really well in the emulators, and so that's where it's having its moment. Is like they're trying to rescue it over there.
I know me and John Lineman are like the two Drive Club defenders. That game has really cool like day-night cycle stuff, where it's baked lighting, but it's done to like change as you drive through the level, and it's really dramatic. It's like shockingly good for what it is.
I think Greg Seward, who submitted a list for us, he's also a Drive Club sicko. Although these days, I think he's fully back on Gran Turismo. So, look, you all have your games, you play them. Were you in like a Drive Club league? Like I know they had those.
No, because all that stuff is gone now.
It's gone.
They chucked all that out. They sell all the menus for like buy the DLC. The DLC isn't for sale anymore.
Hell yeah.
So and speaking of that, do you want to know what the first game I played in 2026 was?
Please.
Anthem.
Okay. Are you okay?
No, obviously. That game's going offline forever in 2 weeks. And I decided,
really? I didn't even know that. That the guy, maybe I reported here and forgot. God, 2 weeks.
It's no longer for sale. They took it off of sale in August, and now it's going offline sometime late next week or early the week after.
All right.
But
UPF,
basically,
I think we're gonna have to play that. I don't know.
Here's the thing. Here. I need some people to play that with, because I'm not sure if you remember Anthem, but a large part of the structure of that game is once you get done the first couple of missions, they're like, go complete the Trials of Diddly Fuck or whatever. And the Trials of Diddly Fuck are just like your dailies. It's like, go do some dailies, but one of the dailies
right? Yeah.
One of the dailies that you have to do is revive 3 other javelins, and I can't find anyone else to revive, so I can't progress the story. I'm stuck. So unless I squad up with people, I can't finish Anthem before it goes offline.
I'm good personal friends with the greatest of all Anthem defenders, AJ Minotti. So maybe I'll give him a ring and see if he wants to show us around one last time in Anthem.
Yeah,
we can.
You
can
say what you will about that game.
I promise you.
Yeah, say what you will about that game. Flying around, it's some good flying around. They nailed that one part.
E3 demo, and that was the focus of that demo. I was like, okay, I'm fully on board with this. This is going to be massive. And it's like, oh, once you play it and you see all the other issues, specifically for BioWare, in that moment, it was animation
Not what
systems.
anyone wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just couldn't like make their games feel alive. That was the problem with Andromeda because of Frostbite. It was the problem with this game. They just didn't have anybody at their studio that could get animations looking good. So they had to kind of make everything static. And like there was the cool dance club scenes from Mass Effect, and those are just nowhere to be seen in a game like this. And it just
It is
felt
kind of
dead.
wild that even after Andromeda and Anthem, they still were forced to use or chose to use Frostbite for Veilguard. Like, I like Veilguard. I actually think it's a pretty remarkable game given the context it was made in.
Yeah.
But like the fact that they were still using Frostbite when everything about those games is so clearly underpinned on, hey, the tech doesn't support the way we are trying to make games is wild. I have a question for you though, before we
Please.
get into stuff. How was Games Done Quick?
It was a lot of fun. Yeah. So AJ, Mike, and me went to Awesome Games Done Quick on day one yesterday. We got there right as like the Mario Sunshine run was ending.
Thank God you dodged a bullet.
Yes, exactly. We kept ourselves safe and secure from that scourge. I like Sunshine. I like when people run it, especially. That's where that game actually literally shines, is as a speed run game. It's great. It's nice to be able to just drive over to Pittsburgh, kind of a quick jaunt from Mike's house. I just drive over there. We all drive together. We're there in no time. We spent most of the day there. Saw a bunch of cool runs. Saw some cool people. Mike did actually finally beat me in Street Fighter Third Strike. He told me at dinner.
No video proof though.
No, I think AJ might have it. I wasn't sure if he was recording, but I think it still doesn't qualify because Mike told me at dinner that he was looking up tips and he's like, "Oh, just play as Ryu and use the charge the Hadouken because it confuses people." And I got to tell you, I was confused. All right,
I would
we should get into
expect
things.
more from the #1 mythology speedrunner.
I know, yes. God, that was also fun.
That was very funny. I was watching live when that happened.
And it was like they must have gone back and saw it or something because it had been a minute since we sent it in, and then they added a little juice there, like, oh, we got people from Giant Bomb here. It's like, oh, thank you, that's real nice. All right, we should explain ourselves. This is Giant Bomb, a small team of video game doofuses who do rely on your support because we are independent games media out here on our own doing this thing. We're going to be doing it in 2026. We're back. We're ready to get back to work. But the work happens because you all make it happen by going to giantbomb.com/join and becoming a premium member. Thank you to everyone who has done that. 2025 was kind of a roller coaster. It was, honestly, it'll be remembered for me of the year where we got to save Giant Bomb, and that only happens because of you. So again, thank you to everyone who has supported us. Thank you to everyone who will choose to support us in 2026. And if you're just here to watch, tell a friend. We love you just the same. All right, as far as this show goes, most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS feed on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with the aforementioned The Witcher 3, which is reportedly getting a surprise new expansion this year. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC. Let's get into it. Polish Noble Securities analyst Matus Sharanowski, listen, I'm sure I'm butchering that. I did my best. Said last month that he was expecting the next paid add-on DLC for The Witcher 3 to be released in May 2026, according to a Polish website. The report follows similar claims from a Polish games insider, Boris Nispielak is how I'm going to say that one, who said last year that the new content was secretly in development at Fool's Theory, the same studio currently remaking The Witcher 1 for CD Projekt. And that's the basics here. There's some other stuff maybe. Eurogamer has since followed up, who with Neil Nispelak, who told it was this information was verified by several independent sources. Okay, I gotta say, when you lay it out like that, the studio that's redoing The Witcher 1, kind of also maybe getting used to working in The Witcher 3, creating content, and maybe that's all kind of serving the overall goal of making The Witcher like constantly relevant and having new stuff. All of that sounds plausible to me. How about you?
Yeah, I suppose this stuff isn't unheard of. I think a lot of people are like, I've never heard of this. Borderlands 2 got a DLC right before Borderlands 3 released,
Yeah.
which I'm not sure many people remember, and it's pretty okay. It's like going back to Borderlands 2, it slots right in with that stuff. And this isn't unheard of as a way to create like a bit of interest. In the case of Borderlands 2, I'm not sure it worked because that game was so old feeling in a lot of ways. Like it was a generation old. People had moved on to the
Right.
PS4, and were well into the PS4 at that point. With The Witcher, I think like that game has kind of become evergreen on people's hard drives in a way where like they've done that next gen update. It still feels pretty new. Like my brother is in this house right now for Christmas playing The Witcher 3 for the first time, and he's like, "Yeah, this game is fucking awesome." So yeah, like that game
Yeah.
is like eminently playable right now. So I can totally see it getting DLC. As to how it would tie into The Witcher 4, I'm like super curious.
Same.
I at some point I should really reach out to Kian Ma, who's over there, who used to be a games journalist, who is now the head of lore. And that sounds like a fun job, just being in charge of the Witcher lore.
Yeah, you gotta have always the name, the like lore keeper, right? You gotta have really cool title if that's your job.
And so yeah, I'm curious how they like actually work this into The Witcher 4, and like if it's how far out The Witcher 4 is based on that. I know they were talking some big talk late in the year of like, this thing's gonna come out in 6 years, all 3 of these games, the new trilogy. And it's like
that never works. We know that never works. Yeah.
CD Projekt Red have had enough delays for all of their games that like I don't buy that for a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the reason that this is something that is happening is because you laid it out. Like the games are more like timeless than they've ever been, and The Witcher 3 is certainly in that like first. It's on that other side of the line of delineation where any game released after this point just feels like any game released after it as well. Doom 2016 and on is kind of the one game I always use. But Witcher 3 is certainly right there as well as a game that could just sell forever, and we've seen it do that. And even like games that don't have the profile of Witcher 3 are doing similar things. I mean, it's similar, like not exactly the same, but we'll talk about it in a little bit. Avatar got that new DLC, and that's a year later. I guess that's a normal timeline, but that feels like a game that is trying to capitalize on something else external and using DLC to do it. I don't think anyone was necessarily believing that was going to make some huge difference, but it did because of the external circumstances. Beyond Good and Evil. Beyond Good and Evil 2 is supposedly still coming. So when they redid Beyond Good and Evil 1, they added some hooks into Beyond Good and Evil, like this idea that like Beyond Good and Evil 2 is really going to come out one day. So we'll have just some suggestions towards that second game. Again, not exactly the same, but it does feel like they're trying to, like when they have an opportunity, hook these games into one another in a more real way.
Yeah.
And I
Beyond Good and Evil 1 felt a bit more like manifesting than anything else.
Definitely. But I think it's all kind of part of the same idea of like, we can use these things that we have at our disposal to kind of make people care more if we care more ourselves. And so I think that we'll probably see this kind of thing more frequently. And the Witcher series definitely feels like the one that could take a huge advantage of this sort of thing. So we'll see. May 2026, that was going to be the time where we were getting a Grand Theft Auto 6. So it's like, that's not happening anymore. So yeah, I could see something like this popping up in that time frame pretty easily. All right. Metroid Prime 4 devs say rebooting the game again was out of the question despite changing taste. This is like more information as we get more details about what happened with this game from Andy Robinson at VGC. Nintendo has said that rebooting Metroid Prime 4 development for a second time was considered out of the question, despite committing to an open world hub formula that faced changed player trends by the time it was completed. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond was finally released for Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2 last month, after nearly a decade of development and a change of developer. The game received generally favorable reviews, but attracted some criticism for its support characters and desert hub world, which some perceived as dated. In a new interview with Famitsu, translated by Nintendo Everything, Metroid Prime 4's development team has discussed its lengthy production for the first time. According to the uncredited interviewee, Beyond's formula came from an initial desire to implement open world features into the series. However, the interview suggests that by the time the game approached completion, the development team may have had some doubts about the direction it had set, but it considered further delays unrealistic given that Prime 4 was announced way back in 2017. Here's a quote, and then we'll start discussing it. At the start of the project, perhaps due to the influence of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, we saw a lot of comments on the internet saying we want to play an open world Metroid, the development team told Famitsu. However, Metroid's core element of increasing the amount of explorable areas by unlocking powers is not very compatible with the freedom to go anywhere from the beginning of open worlds. And so they reconsidered and they kind of tried to edit it there. But yeah, this is, I mean, I don't know. If you play the game, if this feels like what happened here, I think I said as much when I was talking about on the Bombcast when we were first discussing it after it launched. And this feels like, yeah, I get it. What does this mean, though, when, like, you know what game you have, you put it out anyway, understanding that the development team saw the problems with it, and are you going to give them another chance? I hope so. It sounds like they might, but yeah, are you surprised by any of this?
Where were they looking that they saw people saying we want an open world Metroid?
This is a fair point, Lexi. I'm sure those things were out there. I might have said at some point, I could see a developer being like, Breath of the Wild moment for Metroid. I don't know if that means open world necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's rough.
I suppose it would be very unfair of me to say I think Veilguard is like incredible achievement considering how troubled its development was, and then go really hard on Metroid Prime 4 considering how hard its development was. But I watched that ending.
Yeah.
Boy, even out of context, even as someone who isn't really a Metroid fan, oh, okay.
It's bad. It's real bad.
It's a real bad ending for a video game, even without all the other stuff taken into context. And I'm one of those people who would traditionally say, like, I actually am not a huge fan of Metroidvanias and getting lost in games. Like, I just don't like the feeling of being lost. So it's just generally not a genre that clicks with me. And this seems like a version of that game that tries to cater towards those tastes exactly.
Yeah, a little bit.
But in the process of doing so, it does seem like they have lost they've lost the trail on what they're actually, like, what people want from these games and what these games are about and the feelings that they elicit. So it just seems like Metroid Prime 4 goes much longer distances between feeling, recreating the feeling of those first three games. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's a shame. I hope they get another chance. Retro is obviously like an incredibly talented studio. And it would be nice for them to be able to go back to developing some original stuff. Like, when you think about it, they really haven't put out a lot of games in the last 15 years.
And if you know, gaming has had like constant interviews with former Retro people over the last couple of years that like documents 10 to 15 Retro projects that were pitched and approved and like got further along and like they all got canceled. It's like, oh, and I'm sure that's normal for a studio working in this industry, but it's like for Retro, it's notable because they did not have a lot of alternative releases.
And I suppose the big question now is like, if this Metroid doesn't hit and Nintendo kind of goes, okay, well, we're not going to do Metroid for a bit, are they going to give them back Donkey Kong? Because Donkey Kong seems to be Nintendo's new, like, thing of, like, this is what we're putting forward front and center. And, I don't know, they've moved away from the retro sensibilities in some ways with Donkey Kong. So does Retro go and make a new IP or work on something else? I don't know.
Yeah, they probably get back to pitching a bunch of stuff and hoping Nintendo kind of gets it, which is going to be a rough spot because it seems like there's a lot of not necessarily misalignment, because again, it's probably a normal amount of misstarts for projects. But it's a tough process regardless, and they're going to have to get back to that, and that's going to be frustrating. I think the reality here, though, is Metroid Prime 4 will sell kind of within parameters, and then Nintendo will kind of be in the situation where they're like, we let Retro build the infrastructure to build a game like this. Why don't we let them do it one more time now that they have sort of everything in place? They have the relationships with the multiple external studios they use to build assets. They've done that day to day for years now. Let's just use that one more time and see if we kind of can't get some of more money back by making a sequel, maybe clean up that ending, that sort of thing. I could
and
see
you know,
all that
it's worth
happening.
noting that like plenty of first party hardware manufacturers do have studios where they're like, yeah, these are the guys who make really good looking games for us, and they push the
Yeah.
tech forward. You know, Sony has that with the Horizon folks. Xbox has that with like half of their stable. And you know, Nintendo could definitely look at like Metroid Prime 4 is just one of the best looking video games of last year. Doesn't matter if you were talking about like
Yes.
high-end PCs or consoles or anything, like all of it. It is one of the best looking games of the year. And I think that they will definitely be like, we should lean into that technology base that they've built up, because they have proven that like even if the Switch 2 isn't the most powerful bit of hardware, we can squeeze so much out of it.
Yeah, it turns out that you know they don't just hire from local, but turns out there's a lot of people who live in Texas, a lot of artists, and there's a handful of places they can really go to work if they want to like stretch their legs in a sci-fi setting.
A lot of
Retro's
people
one
who
of
are
them.
good at making games run well.
Yes,
Turns
exactly.
out.
Yes, right. Yeah. Oh, there's a ton of that in Texas as well. Like there's a huge industry there of people who are very technically minded. Texas Instruments is there. Yeah, and so of course there's people that kind of flock to these areas, and Retro hires them all up, and hopefully they can apply that to a game that isn't as maligned as this one was. We'll see. All right, let's take a quick break and let's come back and let's talk about the good news. You have too much money. Let's get rid of some more of it by raising the prices on everything. Does that sound good to everyone? We'll talk about that right after this. If you want to skip out on these ads, we do put out ad-free versions of the audio show and ad-free versions of the video show on giantbomb.com. Go to /join to get those. We'll be right back.
All right, dog. It's time to start the show. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, dude, I'm ready.
No, Grubb. You look like you are in a den of inequity right now.
I don't know what that means, and I don't know what you want. It's not like I have a home studio, Jan.
Yes, you do. The computers that Main Gear built for us have NVIDIA GeForce RTX GPUs in them, and with the NVIDIA Studio drivers and NVIDIA Broadcast, you can turn even your man cave into a professional studio. Using Broadcast, you can upgrade your webcams, microphones, and speakers using the power of machine learning to take our shows, voice chats, and video conferences to the next level. You can use audio effects like noise removal.
Oh, yeah, I guess I have the fan on. Well, it's hot. I'm not going to turn that off. Let me just hit this right here. Is that any better, Jan?
Much better. We can clean up your shot with auto frame and video noise removal. And Grubb, you can even make it look like you were paying attention using the eye contact tool.
So I could still watch my stories?
Yes, you can. NVIDIA Broadcast is a universal plugin that works with most live streaming, voice chat, and video conferencing apps. It's supported on any NVIDIA GeForce RTX GPU. And since I'm using the NVIDIA Studio drivers, I'll get stable optimized performance in Adobe Photoshop, DaVinci Resolve, and all the other apps that I need to use to fix our mistakes in post.
You know what? Thank you to Main Gear and NVIDIA for supplying our NVIDIA Studio PCs. NVIDIA Broadcast, your AI-powered home studio, and NVIDIA Studio, the software advantage for all creators. Jan, I'm not even looking at the camera at all right now.
Grubb, stop looking at me.
I haven't looked at you forever. We are back. It's Game Mess Mornings. Jeff Grubb, Lexi Luddy. Let's get back into the headlines here with ASUS officially announces price hikes from January 5th, right before CES 2026. This is from Video Cards. They did get a correction. This was not an officially announced thing. This was an internal letter that got leaked. But the letter says everything's going to be more expensive, so we're going to have to raise prices. They don't get into any specific models. But they do say that because of a combination of factors, mostly DRAM, but it's not just DRAM. It's
we're all looking for the guy who did this.
Yep. And they're just, hey, we're going to raise prices. So expect the laptops, everything to get more expensive from ASUS. And of course, not just ASUS. It's getting like apocalyptic. I think that we were talking during the break. You said it feels like something's over now. Yeah, the salad days of affordable computing are done for now. Like we're on a break with that idea, and to that end, there's rumors that Nvidia, who announced recently that they're going to have a 30% reduction in the number of new GPUs that they're making, apparently reportedly bringing back the NVIDIA 3060, the RTX 3060, which was the entry level, as if that's the entry level price. We kind of just accepted that, but the entry level from a couple generations ago.
2 generations ago, yeah.
Yes. So you just built a PC. A lot of people are planning to do so, and hearing this news, of course, everyone now has to panic buy, which drives up prices even more. We see that Micron, who closed Crucial, which is their consumer-facing memory and storage brand, they closed that recently. Micron's stock price has only shot up since then. Was going to anyhow, but shot up even more specifically because they did that. It feels like the whole system has broken when it comes to this. And what do we say? Like, you have to do this? I kind of feel like we should be saying that. Like, we should be saying to these companies, no, this is a utility at this point, public, like owning your own computer. But beyond that, what choice do we have? Because we can't like say, hey, make it because we're going to spend money on it, because clearly the only other option is for them to raise prices to the point where we can't afford it anymore. So what's going to happen here?
I over the holiday break, I've been off and on finally catching up on the Outer Worlds 2. Do you know the setup for how the Outer Worlds gets to the point that it gets to with like its ultra capitalism, their version
I don't remember.
of so in their alternate universe, the president before Teddy Roosevelt isn't assassinated. McKinley isn't assassinated.
All right.
So Roosevelt never comes in and breaks up the monopolies.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And now I'm kind of just looking at the world and like, man, we're just like 60 years behind them. It's grand.
Yeah, exactly. The right person, it didn't happen and then we got Reagan. Or it did happen and we got Reagan. Shit. It's still basically exactly what happened. You're right. Just 60 years later.
We're just running a little bit late for the Outer Worlds' timeline. I have pulled up Steam's hardware survey that they do at the end of every year in December. Do you want to hazard a guess? Some of these stats have actually changed since I looked at them earlier in December. Do you want to guess what the most popular video card is currently?
I'm going to say it's probably the 3060.
With 2.2% of all of users using it, it is the 3060.
Yeah.
The second most popular is the 4060 laptop edition, with 1.4%. Then, like, you don't see a 40 series. You don't see a 40 series until you're out of the top 10. So
I mean, the 40 series was like pretty tough on them. Yeah.
I was looking for a 50 series. You don't see a 50 series until you are out of the top 15. So that's bad.
So like they really struggled to like make the 40 series compelling. Is kind of what I remember feeling. And then so that's all part of the storyline here of where we're like, hey, we want to care about these things, but the stuff you're putting your efforts into are not that exciting to us consumers. And they're like, well, it's exciting to the AI bros. Why aren't you excited like they are? We'll just go sell it to them. And now we're here, having to deal with the like, they're selling into a fad. They're selling into a boom and a gold, a sort of a gold chase here. And again, that's always going to be impossible for the normal consumer who has a normal relationship with computing to compete with. And the real problem here is the monopolies, because we should not be having to compete with billionaire corporations for the same resources. We should have a cordoned off part of the market that is meant to serve us, and that cordon should be put in place by regulation.
Gob, have you just considered not being part of this society that you seem to dislike so much?
I did just get a new computer for my job for free, and so I should not be able to criticize any of this. This is a good point. Yes. Absolutely.
Do you want to know what the most common RAM allotment is at 33%? 33% of Steam users have this amount of RAM.
Is it okay? This amount of RAM, is it 8 gigabyte? Do they specify
it is 8 gigabyte? Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't specify the type, but it's 8 gigabyte. Okay. And because I've now built a PC, I've been browsing a lot of the Steam store more recently, and I was looking at a lot of 2026 games, and the number of games with 2026 running on them that in their minimum specs say that they support 8 gigabytes of RAM is near zero, unless you're in like the indie game scene. Like pretty much no AAA games are supporting that.
It kind of it snuck up on people like that, because there was like the common wisdom 5 years ago was you don't need more than 8 gigabytes. Look, you should get 16 gigabytes, but you don't need 8 gigabytes. And if you're going to spend your money, the place to spend your money is get the best video card you could possibly get. That was the common wisdom. So a lot of people kind of like took that a little bit too much and were like, well, we'll save money on RAM and we'll get the best video card we can get. And then like overnight, one day, we woke up and it was like 8 gigabytes is insane. You cannot have a system on that. You need at least 16. And really, we're getting to a point where 32 is kind of recommended at this point. And that old wisdom is kind of like catching up to people who have not upgraded their system in the last 5 years.
Yeah, we should say this all seems very in the weeds if you are, if you're,
if you're normal,
if you're watching this. But PC gaming is at this point about like as big as console gaming. And 33% of the market not being able to run new games isn't great for the traditional type of AAA games that a lot of people watching this show care about. It isn't great for those companies if a third of your biggest pillars can't play those games. And so, yeah, this is going to become a very real problem in some very real ways. I
mean, what does it mean for the consoles, right? Because we're talking about going back to the 3060 on the PC side of things, because making new GPUs is a non-starter. PS6 is not that far away, and there's a couple things there, and I think I'm going to make a video about this at some point. I intend to, but like Mike said on the show the other day to me, no one wants to hear about the PS6 right now. But they're going to get to a point where like just they need the PS6 for a variety of reasons. One of them being like piracy is starting to kind of creep up on the PS5 a little bit. They're going to want to reset the clock on that, just like all these companies want to. And how do you market a PS6? Like, first of all, it's going to be very similar to the PS5. The one glaring difference, Lexi, might be it might cost 50% more, 100% more. Like, it's going to be significantly more expensive to play a lot of stuff that looks very similar to what you're already playing on your PS5. So how does Sony position that? Like, it's going to be a difficult thing to pull off. And really, the answer might be, we're going to be waiting a lot longer, which I might be fine with. Like, again, I don't even know if I want to hear about a PS6 in any way right now. How about you?
So that's been like the internal or the scuttlebutt in and around the PC industry is it seems like this is a hard reset for what the expectations of the length of a generation is.
Yeah.
Generations became like a year max for video cards. And so now people are like, no, you're going to see people use these video cards for way longer, and you're going to see people spend a lot less time. I think a lot of developers just started throwing power at optimization and just assuming that people would have more powerful PCs, because for a large part, people kind of were. The growing market was in people upgrading their PCs. And so I think you're going to see a lot of like developers now have to cater to things like optimization in a very real sense. And, whether that winds up being a kind of good thing in some ways where, the best looking games always come out at the end of a generation of a console, if we start to see that in the PC space. But moreover, like the first thing you're going to see in this is a huge swath of people who would be interested in this hobby being priced out of it forever.
Right.
And never being able to get into it, never being able to try it, never even being able to like check out fucking Fortnite. Like, that's where we're at, is the barrier to entry to Fortnite is going to become too expensive because owning a phone that can run it will become too expensive. And like, it's shit. It's really, really shit, and it isn't good for the industry. And like, obviously, things need to change. I don't know what else to tell you, but like, things need to change in a rather radical way.
And the reality is like this set of circumstances feels like it's going to solidify things even more, because what is going to run on everything? What is going to be able to work on the PS4 you still have? And it's going to be these live service games and the single player narrative, any sort of game that's not one of these live service games that has relied on big flashy visuals to sort of stand out from the crowd. Well, I mean, that's going to stagnate immediately because they already are in a situation where everyone's always one-upping each other. And then the only real way to get more is to spend more money. And that means your product's going to have a smaller profit margin, and you're going to have a lot more risk. And there's going to be a lot of people who are already price averse, who have been priced out of this market in the first place. So you're just going to have a smaller audience. So you don't even make those games anymore. You go and you also try to make a live service game that can run on anything. So it's it feels really grim. And I think a lot of conversations we've been having over the last year or two have kind of ended with us saying it feels pretty grim. But this feels like something that has to break so we can get on the other side of it.
Just to put into context what I was saying about like AAA games, Resident Evil Requiem currently has a Steam page. Its minimum system requirements is 16 gigs of RAM.
Yeah.
So 33% of Steam players won't be able to run Resident Evil Requiem.
What does it say for GPU? And does it have like VRAM listed?
Its GPU is a minimum is a 1660 and its recommended is a 2060.
Yeah, okay. I think like even beyond system RAM, VRAM, which I'm certain like that's only 8 gigabytes is the most common entry for that. That is like getting to a point where 10 gigabytes is kind of the minimum, really. 12 gigabytes, and most cards that come out in any sort of affordable price is all at 8 gigabytes right now still. And it's like that's going to get even worse in this next year because anything above 8 gigabytes is going to drive the prices way up, and they're going to put all those into the much higher end GPUs and sell those at a huge profit margin. It has to break so we can get on the other side of it, but I really don't know what it looks like. And it feels like maybe the answer is everybody scales back. Everybody sort of takes a breath and uses this as a crisis moment to rethink like what a new video game even needs to be. But I think the answer to that question might disinterest a lot of these big corporations that make these kinds of games. So they just walk away at a certain point. And again, maybe we're better off without them. I don't know. Okay, let's keep going here. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora got a major player count boost after Fire and Ash. This is from Chris Compendio at GameSpot. Over 2 years after its release, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is enjoying an all-time peak on Steam. Likely, in large part, due to the game's new DLC that ties in directly to the film franchise's latest installment. Data from SteamBeast showed that the Ubisoft-published open-world game hit a record peak of 15,000 players this week, a gain from its previous week of 12,000 players last month when Avatar Fire and Ash hit cinemas on December 19th. With the release of the movie came a DLC expansion, to Frontiers of Pandora, on the same day, titled From the Ashes. It's a story expansion, adds a bunch. This worked. I think I had a hunch it probably would be okay, but it seems like it did really well for them. It didn't like change the fate. Like it didn't have 80,000 concurrent players, right? Like some brand new games do. But I think this is a strategy that is that can work for these movies or these games that have these external events that happen that can tie themselves into or have any sort of cultural cachet, which I know there's an argument Avatar doesn't have that, but it has enough for a corporation to cash in on it. I'm mostly okay with this Avatar Frontiers of Pandora as a game that I thought was pretty good. And I like the idea of instead of trying to like force a sequel out or rush another game or just abandon what you have, make a little DLC that sort of ties into it. That seems like a smart idea to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard really good things about the story in that Avatar game that, I know a lot of people, especially with Avatar 3, have been pointing to like, hey, the white savior stuff is getting a bit much with these movies.
Getting kind of long in the tooth, yes.
And the games very much so go out of their way to like push back on a lot of that stuff, and make the Na'vi the protagonist, which I think is a pretty cool way to go about things. And yeah, that game, it looks really nice. I've heard it plays pretty good. So yeah, like this seems like it's working for them.
Yep. Let's go right along here to the next story here. Xbox just set a terrible new record. Talk about eye-catching headlines. This is from Ethan Gotch.
Happy
at
New Year,
Kotaku.
Xbox.
There it is. The game business's Chris Dring reports that 2025 was, quote, comfortably the worst year on record for Xbox console sales in the UK. They were down nearly 40% from the year prior, which was already far from stellar. I'm not sure how to square Microsoft's seemingly complete abdication of hardware sales less than 5 years into the current generation with its promise to continue making consoles in the future. Yeah, Dring posts that and asks, like, is there a chance things can improve in 2026? So, Lexi, do things improve for Xbox in 2026? Is there any reason to think that they could?
No.
Right? Even if like Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out at this point, right? You like everyone around, any person that's like considering I need new hardware to play Grand Theft Auto 6. Everyone knows, like, I'm not talking about just our audience, the people that listen to this show and have these conversations. I think if they ask anyone, hey, what should I get? Everyone's, well, my Xbox seems kind of dead. Just get a PlayStation. I think that is a common wisdom at this point. So it's not, even Grand Theft Auto 6 doesn't feel like it'll make a dent.
I genuinely like Xbox. It feels more like a peripheral company now of like people buying. So when I was in Japan, there was an Xbox section in one of the stores that we went to. And they're always tiny compared to everywhere else. And all of them, bar none, didn't stock any physical games. All they stocked was keyboards and Xbox controllers that were PC and Xbox supported. That's all they had. And like that whole section was basically just like, hey, you should check out PC Game Pass. Like just ads for like, you should check out PC Game Pass Ultimate. And yeah, I think that that's being reflected back in the sentiment towards Xbox. I don't know. What do you think 2026 could possibly hold for Xbox? Like,
I mean, I think that there's a chance they have some good video games, like they did last year. They had some good games.
They had some good games last year.
Yep.
And nobody played them because they didn't put any money into marketing them. Like, there was no marketing around Keeper. There was no marketing around The Outer Worlds 2. There was a little bit around South of Midnight and Avowed. Pretty much the only Xbox thing that got marketing last year was Call of Duty Black Ops 7, and it sold worse than ever before.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the next Call of Duty probably does a little bit better. That makes them happy over there, I guess. But like, as far as we're concerned, as far as we care, look,
I'm excited for boots on the ground action.
Of course. That Forza game, is that supposed to come out this year?
Yeah. They have a showcase on in like a week.
That's right. Yeah,
they have a January showcase. So like we will know more about what Xbox is getting up to this year. And I'm sure Forza Horizon will do quite well for them. But outside of that, do you think that Forza Horizon is day and date PS5?
I think it's like a month later. I know, like 3 months later at the most. Like if they release Forza Horizon 6, so where we're at 5, 7.
Yeah, 6.
6. They release that in the summer, and then they can put it on the PlayStation 5 for the holiday. That doesn't sound too wrong. And like and put it out in the summer, dead of summer on Xbox, because what does it fucking matter? You're gonna sell that thing on Game Pass for the most part. People are gonna get it on Game Pass, and then you sell it for real, on PC at the same time. But then and it does really well there. But then you sell it again in the holiday for PlayStation. Yeah, I could see that happening. So yeah, I think that they are going to be in a situation where they need to sort of just recognize the home runs when they have them, if they get any in terms of games doing well, and what that means for the console. At this point, it doesn't feel like it means anything. It's completely separate from that. And so yeah, if we get some good games, that'll be great. I'll love that.
Grubb, when you were trying to figure out what Forza they were on, chat very helpfully wanted you to know that they're on 6-7.
6-7. My daughter made a holiday card for me, and it's addressed to not dad, to 6-7. So that's where we're at in my life. All right, let's keep going
Oh
here.
no,
Yeah,
that's upsetting.
That's just, hey, I'm 6'7" now. All right, I've accepted it. Everyone else should as well. Nintendo Switch 2 dev kit availability has largely been resolved. This is from my Nintendo news, but Nate the Hate is out there saying this. And that's definitely the sense I've gotten as well. There was like some delays in like Call of Duty, like the Call of Duty studios getting their Switch development kits, but it wasn't like super delayed. It was just delayed enough to cause some problems with the like the most recent release or something like that, according to Nate the Hate. And yeah, I think what happened there is they were holding them back. They were probably holding them back just a tiny bit longer for any Xbox related company and studio, because I think they're like, that's weird to give our unreleased hardware to a company that makes hardware because they're Nintendo and they're traditional. But that obviously doesn't matter once the system is out. And so, yeah, this sounds like, okay, all these studios should have this now, and we're on the other side of that. Nintendo's a little bit weird, but they're not so weird that they would continue that on for no good reason well into the release of the Switch 2. Switch 2 support has been mostly, I think, respectable, but it's not like equal to the other consoles yet. And in this world now where the Xbox is less relevant and PlayStation is what it is, it's continuing to be exactly what it's been. I bet a lot of studios and publishers are like, maybe we should be paying more attention and getting our stuff on Switch 2. And it's capable enough that we could justify doing that for our new releases even. So I expect support from third parties for Switch 2 to even improve, even if we don't get like every EA Sports game, for example. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the problem that they're going to face is the quality of ports, because that seems very inconsistent right now. I know that like Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows are kind of the high watermark of ports to the Switch 2, of people being like, yeah, these are really fucking good ports. But then you have stuff like that Tomb Raider re-release of the definitive edition of the 2013 game, and they're like, in some ways this is like worse than the PS3 version in places.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that just seems like it shouldn't be happening. So yeah, I do wonder if that is simply companies trying to get to grips with the new hardware, and if it's going to take them a while to get it up and running and stuff like that. But we do know that like the Switch can output some really good looking games. Like Cyberpunk runs really well on it, and like I said, the Assassin's Creed game runs super well on it. So like it is capable of running these games quite well.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's see here. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella really wants you to stop calling AI slop in 2026, and he's asking very nicely.
Ah, honey. Ah, babe. Ah,
it's just embarrassing. I went and grabbed the story from Luke Plunkett at Aftermath, who I think does a pretty decent job of like breaking this down. In a late December blog post titled Looking Ahead to 2026, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella wrote down some thoughts on how he and his company should approach the year ahead. Spoilers, it's almost entirely about AI, and it has some of the most unhinged stuff I've ever seen someone with a supposedly reputable job ever post on the internet. He begins with an opening that sounds like a man who knows the game is up, but who is in too deep to back out now. As I reflect on the past year and look toward the one ahead, there's no question 2026 will be a pivotal year for AI. Yes, another one, but this moment feels different in a few notable ways. The passage that has attracted the most attention over the past week, though, is the one below, where he says everyone needs to move on and move past the idea of AI being slop, a sentiment gathering so much momentum among normal human beings that it was crowned 2025's Word of the Year by, was it Merriam-Webster? Here's the next piece of the letter. A new concept that evolves bicycles for the mind, such that we always think of AI as a scaffolding for human potential versus a substitute. What matters is not the power of any given model, but how people choose to apply it to achieve their goals. We need to get beyond the arguments of slop versus sophistication and develop a new equilibrium in terms of our theory of the mind that accounts for humans being equipped with these new cognitive amplifier tools as we relate to each other. This is the product design question we need to debate and answer. And look, I think what I would say to Sadie is, baby, you don't see oil executives talking this way. They just go by the president and have him invade Venezuela for them. They just do all this shit behind closed doors. They don't have to convince anyone in the public of anything. They just do all their business the way they've always done it, and they go home with their riches, and they win every time. Why are you embarrassing yourself by going out here and telling everyone to love AI when clearly many, many people do not? Sure, a lot of people don't care. A lot of people, it doesn't affect them one way or the other, but a lot of people seem to just hate it. It's ruining things that they love and they've noticed. And you telling us to just love it or to get past any criticisms or get past a obvious criticism that is striking a chord is just embarrassing. This does feel like the game is up and he knows it. What's your response to this?
My response, probably.
I think Discord ate some of that, but there was a
Little
big
bit,
raspberry
yeah,
there. Yeah.
But yeah, man, this is old Gil in The Simpsons. And he's like, the wolf's at old Gil's door. This is like that, but like you're not rooting for old Gil. You hope the wolf fucking eats old Gil and like destroys him and everything that he stands for and everything that he's built because he's ruined everything. Yeah, my sympathies for Satya Nadella feeling like people aren't respecting his plagiarism machines enough doesn't go super far. And you know, I think that this is Grubb, a lot of the time you say like don't voting with your wallet is a misnomer because it doesn't work and instead you should get loud. This is what that looks like. This is him getting visibly riled up and upset in his end of year leisure, being like, people are being mean to me on the internet. And like, this is the reaction that you want to get from these people, is you want them to know that what they're doing is fucking hated. Because even though they don't feel shame, they certainly feel pressure. And if you apply enough pressure, then eventually things will break. So yeah, if you have been loud about AI and about not liking it, keep doing that. Keep being loud. Keep telling people how much it fucking sucks. The Claire Obscure team have like gone out there and said like, yeah, we used it when we were like workshopping stuff, and some of it made it into the game, and we're never using it again. Because we don't like the reception that it got, because people were so hard on us for it. Like the tide on this stuff does turn if you continue to push hard on it. It just takes a while. I think a lot of people who use the internet a lot kind of forget how slowly some things have to move, because so much of the internet is like instant reactionary. But a lot of these campaigns take long-term pressure in a way that you don't usually see with the internet. Usually it's short-term pressure campaigns, change things quickly with the internet. Stuff that is like big and societal and has these big companies throwing around billions of dollars really does require months and months and months of effort and of like fucking bullying. Like, keep bullying them because it's working.
It's you know, I would like, even if it doesn't like fully work, like I'm not going to tell people to fall into incrementalism or anything like that. But like you could still like dam the river. You could dam the banks a little bit, and I think we should just be happy with a couple of wins here and there. The Claire Obscure team saying that is a small win, and it's like that only works because of the public response. So take that and put it in your pocket and be happy and try to get another win. I don't know if we can defeat this machine. I think the machine has to be broken and dismantled and removed. And like, we're not going to actually be able to do that by just getting loud. A lot more will have to happen there. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't get loud, and it doesn't mean we should resort to playing their game of capitalism and voting with our wallet, because the votes aren't real if you do that. And there's a bigger voter over there with billions of dollars voting on AI constantly right now. And you are not even
buying all your
fucking
PC parts.
Buying all your PC parts. And when you get loud about that over there, sure, they pull up their chair and they go home. But that doesn't mean they were going to do that no matter what, whether you got loud or not. So yeah, I hope that like people continue to take these wins, because the small ones are just as important, because that's what we're going to get for now. So we'll see. And when this thing does break, and it will in one way or another, whether, I don't know if it'll break permanently, but when it does break, there will be a moment where there will be an opportunity where people can put in safeguards and put in rails, and that's only going to happen if there is a movement there and there's still political energy, and that'll happen if people are still getting out there and yelling about it. All right, let's do last headline here, which is just a restful trails to David Rosen, who was Sega's co-founder and a pioneer of arcade gaming in Japan. He was an airman who was looking for a career after the military and started buying and selling coin-op machines in Japan, and eventually sort of realized arcades were a good opportunity to expand that business. And I'm sure I'm glazing over a lot of the parts of that story that really matter. But that's, always been the story I've heard about David Rosen. And he was 95, long life, and kind of a huge history there. And it's always a fun little trivia. Oh, yeah. Did you know Sega was co-founded by an American? Kind of a weird thing. And David Rosen was that American. All right.
And before we wrap up,
please.
we should also say, because there was no game mess over the break, rest in peace to Vince Zampella. Condolences to his family and, everyone at that studio.
Yep. Just a tragic event. Yeah. It was tragic. All right. Let's see here. We have no poll question from last time because we knew we were going to be off for a long time. There will be, I'll update the Bomb 12, everybody, from last Friday. We did one over Christmas. We have one from the new year. But that means the voting will begin for this week's Bomb 12 today. So check out giantbomb.com sometime today for that. So in the meantime, what we'll do here is, let's do the new poll question. Have you played Avatar Frontiers of Pandora? Yes or no? Kind of just curious in the raw numbers of people listening to this who have played that game. Because it's, I'm sure a lot of people are just picking it up now, but I want to see how many people have actually played it overall and maybe compare and contrast that to some other stuff. We'll get the results of that poll and talk about it on Game Mess Mornings here on Giant Bomb on Wednesday. Tomorrow we'll have the Bombcast. We're going to get back into everything this week. We also going to start delivering some stuff here from the Bombathon because it's 2026 now. So a lot of stuff happening over here. Again, thank you everybody for joining us. For the year. Let's make it a good one. All right, Lexi, where can people find you on the internet? What do you have going on and all that good stuff?
Yes, you can find me on Blue Sky at lexluddy.xyz. A bunch of really cool stuff has gone up on startmenu.co.uk. We had our annual website-wide Game of the Year awards where we handed out a lot of different awards. And we, for the first year ever, voted on a website-wide award, and you'll never guess what one. You should also check out all of the lists on Giant Bomb because they're all great.
Yes.
As someone who edited every single one of them, they are all fantastic. And if you see a typo in them, no, you didn't.
Yep, you just look the other way. All right, let's see what else we have going on at Giant Bomb. I don't know if we're missed in today. We just came back. I gotta go talk to everybody in a meeting and see what we're all thinking. But we'll let you know, and we'll see what's gonna happen here today, tomorrow, for the rest of the week, for the rest of the year. Thank you again, everybody, once again for hanging out with us. Thank you for watching and listening. Thank you, Lexi, for hanging out with me and talk about video games. Until next time, everybody, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.